On the western coast of North America lies Oregon, a place early explorers had only partially mapped. Shaped by volcanic eruptions, rivers and shifting ground, it was home to indigenous nations long before settlers arrived. In the 1840s, travellers on the Oregon Trail began settling parts of the region, yet many early towns later vanished, while much of the surrounding terrain remained unmapped. Today, traces of the past remain across these plains. In Jawbone Flats, the empty buildings of a former mining camp still stand, left behind after the site was shut down and the last residents moved out. Tumalo Falls formed where a stream reaches an old lava field, creating a sudden drop that points to major changes in the land over time. And the Pillars of Rome appear as large rock structures that once served as a reference point for early pioneers moving through the area. Stay with me as we uncover Oregon's most extraordinary wonders, where rare discoveries and forgotten mysteries might change the way you see this state forever. Smith Rock State Park looks like something out of a fantasy movie. Massive cliffs, sharp spires, and a river winding through a deep canyon. Over thousands of years, cracks and erosion sculpted these formations into a natural playground, where climbers use tiny holes and edges as handholds. This is where modern sport climbing was born, the first place people dared to bolt anchors straight into the rock. Even the river seems to play along. It cuts a dramatic path through the canyon and paints the valley with light and shadow. Some of the walls even show bubble-like textures, traces of volcanic gases that cooled in place, like soda bubbles frozen in time. Multiple bird species like Canada geese come to the riverbanks here to rest and nest, a presence that brings life to the towering cliffs and flowing water. With large bodies, black heads, and a white patch under the chin, these greyish-brown geese nest in grassy spots near the water, where predators struggle to reach their young. They use the area for food and safety, feeding on plants, insects, and small water creatures found near the river. Pairs stay together for life, and both parents help protect and teach their goslings how to find food and stay safe. Their loud honking calls keep families connected and warn others of danger nearby. Known for their strong instincts, Canada geese can become fiercely defensive when guarding their territory. During migration, large flocks stop in the area to rest and refuel before continuing their long journeys. Some remain through winter to take advantage of the river's open water when other sources freeze. Sheniko grew fast as a major wool shipping centre, that relied on a short railroad line to move tons of it. At its peak, it was called the wool capital of the world, with huge warehouses and sales reaching over $1 million in a day. But the town quickly declined after a rival railroad took its trade route, and 2 fires destroyed much of its business district. In the present, Churn is mostly quiet with a handful of residents, but its old buildings and an active ghost hotel keep its mysterious side alive. People say the hotel's doors move on their own, cold spots show up unexpectedly, and strange whispers can be heard. Cannon Beach is named after a real cannon that washed ashore from a ship that sank nearby long ago. The town survived a strong tsunami that flooded parts of it and destroyed a highway bridge, but the community grew closer and began hosting events like an annual sand castle contest. Long ago, a giant whale washed up on the shore, which let early explorers trade blubber with local tribes. A sense of mystery lingers here, as people say fog sometimes drifts in suddenly along the shore and covers the beach in quiet, eerie calm. All these stories and features lead naturally to the most famous part of the beach, the Haystack Rock, a giant stone rising 235 feet that people can walk to during low tide. It was created long ago when lava flows pushed through softer ground and left behind this tall tower of hard rock in the sea. Remarkably, it's one of the largest sea stacks in the world that can actually be reached from land. Each year, thousands of visitors explore the tide pools at its base, where starfish, crabs, and sea anemones hide like tiny creatures in secret underwater rooms. In the late 1960s, part of the rock was intentionally blasted to stop climbing and preserve its delicate ecosystem. Now a protected site, Haystack Rock's natural beauty, rich wildlife and local legends of fog and whispers give it an air of mystery that makes it a must-see landmark on the coast. Antelope started as a quiet ranching community, but gained worldwide attention when a group moved in to build their own settlement. Over time, the town grew into a busy, self-sufficient place with thousands of residents, complete with restaurants, shops, a hotel, a private airport, and even an artificial lake. However, things took a dark turn when strange and dangerous events occurred, including attempts to poison neighbours and plots against officials. Eventually, several members were arrested, and the group's leader was deported after a bioterror attack, and other crimes came to light. The commune fell apart soon after, and only a few people remained in the town. Crater Lake National Park is home to the deepest lake in the United States, holding about 5 trillion gallons of water, enough to fill more than 7 million Olympic swimming pools. Long ago, Mount Mazama collapsed and formed a basin that slowly filled with rain and snow, which is why the water remains so incredibly clear. Since the eruption had wiped out all life, no fish lived in the lake naturally. People later carried fish up the mountain in buckets to stock it. Smaller eruptions built Wizard Island, a cone-shaped formation that rises from the lake floor like a miniature volcano. At the summit sits the Witch's Cauldron, a crater that drains rainwater through the volcanic rock with no visible outlets. As a result, toxic volcanic gases still seep from cracks in the crater floor, preventing any plants from growing inside the bowl, even though trees cover the rest of the island. Getting here requires a boat and a steep trail, and only a few visitors can land, so few animals live there, like the high-altitude American pika. These tiny rabbit relatives survive in harsh conditions. They weigh about as much as a golf ball, with bodies smaller than a tennis ball, yet they thrive on frozen volcanic rock. Instead of hibernating, pikas spend their summer gathering and storing vegetation, stacking it under rocks like tiny farmers preparing hay piles for winter. Their thick fur covers even their feet and toes, acting like built-in hiking boots that grip snow and ice, while their paw pads turn black in winter for extra protection. Despite their cold adaptations, heat is their greatest danger. When temperatures rise too high, they retreat into the deepest cracks of volcanic rock, where shadows keep them cool. Sumter began when 5 men on their way to California stopped by a quiet creek, saw a flash of gold in their pans, and never left. They built a cabin, started digging, and before long a whole town rose from the dust. Eventually it became the Queen City, filled with saloons, music, and the sound of miners celebrating their luck. Then came the Gold Dredge, a massive floating machine that ran non-stop for decades, 24 hours every single day except Christmas and the 4th of July. When it stopped, the silence felt eerie, and people whispered about Joe Bush, the ghost blamed for vanishing tools and slamming doors. One night, a fire tore through the town and burned everything to the ground in just a few hours. When the smoke cleared and the gold ran out, everyone was gone. Haystack Head Lighthouse shines the brightest light on the Oregon coast. Its beam stretches 21 miles across the ocean, like a giant flashlight cutting through the fog. Before construction, workers had to cut a road through cliffs and beaches to carry materials up the steep headland. It stands on a massive volcanic rock and rises like a natural stone lookout over the sea. From this high point, it guided ships safely along a dark stretch of coast where no other landmark offered direction. Next to it, the old assistant keeper's house is now a bed and breakfast where guests can experience what life was like there. At night, some visitors even claim that a ghost named Rue moves things in the attic. Pilot Rock rises from the ground like a giant stone thumb, formed when hot magma pushed up and hardened beneath the surface. Over time, the softer rock around it wore away like a melting popsicle and left the harder ones standing above everything. Because of its height and visibility, pioneers travelling through the region could see it from over 40 miles away and used it like a compass to navigate the mountains. Nine different planes have crashed in the rocks because pilots couldn't see it through fog and storms while flying through the mountain pass. Above it, raptors like the ferruginous hawk circle the area and catch the warm air to glide without flapping their wings as they hunt for prey. They are so big that their mouths stretch well below their eyes in a grin-like shape, which allows them to swallow their catch whole. Unlike other hawks, they have rusty-coloured backs and shoulders, pale heads, white tails with a light rust wash, and legs covered in feathers down to the toes. During breeding season, both parents work together to build a nest, often in remote places like rocky outcrops or tall trees, and take turns caring for their chicks until they are ready to fly. Granite started because someone spotted gold in a creek on the 4th of July, and just like that, a quiet patch of dirt exploded into a tiny city. At first they called it Independence, but since another town already had that name, it became Granite, named for the rock that surrounds the area. During its busiest days, the town was rowdy, with 5 saloons and crowded stores squeezed into a tight space, more like a busy camp than a town. Mining here wasn't easy work. It used powerful water guns called hydraulic mining to blast through rocks and uncover the hidden gold. By the time the mines were exhausted, most people had left, leaving behind a rare semi-ghost town. Even today, the wooden buildings lean and crack, with a few houses and abandoned trucks still in place. Cape Perpetua rises 800 feet above the ocean and stands as the highest point accessible by car on the coast and forming a massive wall over the shoreline. Far below, sailors saw the headland from their ship, but couldn't pass it for days because storms kept pushing them back, so they named it Perpetua, after being stuck looking at the same cliff. Within this same headland lies Devil's Churn, a narrow crack in the rocks where waves collide from both ends and send water blasting high into the air. Not far from it, the spouting horn adds to the drama of the coast, acting like a natural geyser as waves enter an underwater cave and force water out through a hole at the top. Beyond the raw energy of the shore, the area is a prime spot to watch grey whales cruise along the coast. Their bodies are dark grey with white patches, and bumps along the back form a zigzag pattern instead of a dorsal fin. Some whales travel thousands of miles each year in one of the longest migrations of any mammal, while others stay near the coast all year. Those that remain near the area are smaller and leaner as they adapt to the limited local food supply. While feeding on tiny shrimp from the ocean floor, they tip upside down or roll onto their side, sometimes blowing bubbles to sink faster and then rise again. Mothers earn the nickname devilfish because they fiercely defend their calves against predators like orcas. Their skin feels smooth, like a peeled hard-boiled egg, and their bodies often carry scars from barnacles, lice, or past predator attacks. Along this coastline where whales feed, a large hole in the rock seems to drain the ocean into a bottomless pit, known as Thor's Well. It began as an underground sea cave, and when the roof collapsed, openings appeared at the top and bottom like a tunnel through the rock. During high tide, waves rush up from the bottom and burst out the top like a geyser, sometimes sending mist far enough to reach the nearby highway. Photographers risk standing on slippery rocks just feet from the churning water to capture sunset shots, and many have lost cameras to surprise waves. Legend says the Norse god Thor struck the ground in anger to create the hole, which gave the site its dramatic name. Golden began as a gold mining camp, but was later abandoned when richer deposits were found elsewhere. A religious family eventually bought the land and turned it into the only mining town in the West, with 2 churches and no saloons that miners had to travel elsewhere for a drink. A film shot in Golden created a fake cemetery for a scene and left it behind. Visitors still leave flowers on graves that were never real. Paranormal investigators say the abandoned church holds demons from local witch rituals, yet its door stays unlocked and anyone can go inside despite warnings of angry spirits. The painted hills were formed from ancient volcanic ash that mixed with muddy soil and slowly hardened into colourful layers of clay and rock. Specifically, the colours come from different metals: red from iron, yellow from magnesium, and black from old plant matter turned to coal. When it rains, the soft pastels burst into vivid reds and golds, as if the hills have been freshly painted. The clay soil is so slippery and fine that plants can't grow roots, so it remains completely bare. It is named one of Oregon's 7 wonders because nowhere else in the state shows this kind of bright, layered geology all in one place. Furthermore, fossils of plants and animals found here reveal that this area once changed from wet forests to dry plains. If you look closely, you might spot the plateau fence lizard, a small survivor of this shifting environment. Living among rocks, logs and wood piles, it spends time basking on warm surfaces, hunting insects, and escaping danger by darting up trees or hiding nearby. Their colour matches the rocks and wood around them, while their spiky scales make them less appealing to predators. The town got its name from inexperienced miners. Locals called them greenhorns, a term for total beginners. It also comes from a large green rock, the Green Horn, which served as a landmark to help miners navigate the claims. During its peak, the settlement boasted hotels, saloons, stores, and a jail that became famous after being stolen, later recovered, and now displayed in a museum. Over time, mining became illegal, and the town slowly faded away. Despite being the smallest incorporated city, it has no permanent residents because heavy winter snow makes it accessible only by snowmobile. The Columbia River Gorge was carved by the biggest floods in Earth's history, with water rushing through at a flow 10 times greater than all the rivers on the planet combined. Giant volcanic eruptions poured lava that created tall cliffs with columns resembling massive puzzles. Glaciers and later floods moved huge amounts of rock and shaped the cliffs and waterfalls seen today. It is famous for its natural scenery, including numerous waterfalls, and supports ecosystems ranging from temperate rainforests to arid grasslands. Sometimes when the wind is calm, strange quiet sounds drift near the cliffs, giving visitors an eerie feeling as if they are being watched. People can experience these geological features up close at Lateral Falls, where water tumbles down cliffs draped in green lichen and framed by towering columns. It drops straight without bouncing, as if water is pouring from a faucet in the sky. Behind it, the rock columns formed when hot lava cooled and cracked into hexagon shapes, like a honeycomb made of stone. Further up sits Vista House, a stone observatory on a rocky point where drivers once stopped to rest and admire the river winding through the canyon. Originally, it was meant to cost $12,000, but ended up at $100,000 because of extra fancy decorations. As a result, people joked it was the most expensive public bathroom in the world, with Italian marble floors and brass fixtures. The same historic route leads to Multnomah Falls, Oregon's tallest waterfall. Here, water spills down dark cliffs in two tiers, a tall upper fall and a smaller lower one, with a stone bridge perfectly placed between them. The name comes from the Multnomah people, a Chinookan tribe who originally lived along the Columbia River in the area, and it means those toward water. According to legend, the falls began when a young woman jumped from the cliffs to save her people, and her spirit made the water flow forever. During freezing winters, the entire waterfall turns into a tower of ice and wraps trees and plants in frozen mist. Susanville began as a mining camp in a narrow canyon, with just one street lined with a store and a 10-stamp mill crushing rocks for gold. Frustrated by the distance, the miners didn't just move the town's post office, they actually stole it, mailboxes and stamps included, to bring it closer to their claims. On Saturday nights it came alive with up to 1,000 miners crowding the single street to drink, gamble, and socialise after a long week of work. Nearby, miners discovered the famous Armstrong Nugget, a treasure that remains one of the region's most remarkable gold finds. Willamette Valley took form after massive floods carried dirt and rock from distant mountains and built up layers hundreds of feet thick. Extinct volcanoes pop up in the middle of flat farmland like lonely islands, with rounded cinder cones and lava rising above the fields. Thanks to this fertile land, its black soil supports farms that grow more hazelnuts and berries than almost anywhere else. In addition, Willamette Valley is known for its wine counterculture and is home to over 500 wineries. When wine season arrives, the valley buzzes with wine harvesting, as rows of vineyards fill with workers gathering Pinot Noir grapes prized around the world. Harvest is a tense race. Crews move through the vines in the early morning chill and pick only the ripest clusters by hand before the sun warms them and spoils their delicate flavours. Some vineyards are divided into small blocks with names, each cared for like its own garden, showcasing the careful attention that makes this valley's wine truly exceptional. Many vineyards grow completely dry with no water added, so the roots dig deep for moisture, which gives the wine a rich, earthy taste. The valley sits at the same latitude as France's famed wine regions, yet few believed world-class wine could flourish here until a handful of pioneers proved them wrong. Fort Rock Cave lies within a small volcanic hill, shaped thousands of years ago when hot magma met icy lake water and left behind a perfect shelter for early humans. Its high-ceilinged hollow, near the entrance, shields the dark interior from wind and heat. Dozens of woven sagebrush sandals were discovered within its layers, evidence that humans used the cave as a busy home base. Mount Hood National Forest formed around a volcano built slowly by lava and mud flows, which created sharp ridges and rocky peaks. Over time, ice and crumbling rock wore it down, gradually lowering the peak by hundreds of feet. One side of the forest gets heavy rain and grows huge mossy trees, while the other side stays very dry with only a few pine trees, because the it blocks the weather like a giant wall. Near the top, steam still escapes through vents, a quiet sign that the volcano remains alive beneath the surface. Strange lights float silently through the trees at night near some trailheads, moving too fast and controlled to be drones, then disappearing for hours before returning even closer. Hidden in the forest sits Little Crater Lake, a tiny pool of water that stays freezing cold year-round. Beneath its surface, a constant spring flows from underground, keeping the water fresh and icy, no matter the season. Because it is so clear, a person can see all the way to the bottom, and anyone looking down may feel. At the same time, reflections form a perfect mirror that doubles the forest and makes the lake seem endless in both directions. Swimming is completely banned now, but even when it was allowed, few could stand the icy chill for more than a few minutes. Whitney began as a town because of logging and the railroad that shipped massive amounts of timber out. In the centre, a large sawmill once stood like a wooden cathedral, seeming to rise in tribute to the trees it cut. Because of this, the logging industry was so busy, it supplied lumber for building far beyond the region. However, when it burned down, the town almost died overnight, but it was rebuilt and survived a little longer. When the railroad left, Whitney became a ghost town, with belongings still inside the buildings. Since then, the town sits on private ranch land with no trespassing signs everywhere, including one fence reportedly bearing a handwritten warning: no hunting, no fishing, no college grads. Serene Cline Falls tumbles over a wide stone shelf, splitting into several streams that spread down the cliff like open fingers. Historically, it once powered an entire town with electricity, but its natural flow was blocked by a dam that was eventually removed. Not far from here, the northern flickers fill the air with high-pitched, squeaky calls that carry across the canyon and river. Their brown feathers covered in spots and bars help them hide into dried grass and natural surroundings. Instead of pecking tree bark, they spend most of their time hopping across the ground and digging into dirt and ant hills. Its long, sticky tongue can extend about 2 inches past its beak to catch prey like a built-in bug catcher. In fact, they mainly eat insects, especially ants, along with beetles, flies, butterflies, moths and snails, and then turn to fruits and seeds in winter when bugs are scarce. When males compete for territory, or mates, they show bright salmon-coloured feathers under their wings that turn their bodies into warning signals seen from far away. These woodpeckers drill new nests in dead trees every year, and the holes become homes that many other animals use after the flickers leave. Crater Lake Lodge is located right at the edge of a lake, formed when a huge volcano exploded and left a giant hole that's now filled with clear blue water. It's only open from late spring through early fall, since heavy snow makes the area inaccessible in winter. Inside, guests often hear footsteps in empty halls, see flickering shadows, and feel cold spots, as if something unseen is moving around. The western side of the lodge is said to be the most active, with strange energy, unexplained noises, and even electronic glitches reported during paranormal investigations. Willamette National Forest stretches across an area of towering volcanic peaks, narrow canyons, and numerous waterfalls linked by miles of hiking trails. Thick old-growth trees block most sunlight, and moss covers the ground, so the area resembles a twilight world. Moving through the streams that cut through this forest, river otters hunt fish in the cold water and play along the banks. To stay warm, they have thick, waterproof fur that holds air and keeps them insulated from the cold. Babies are born afraid of water and must be guided in by their mothers, who teach them to swim by holding them until they learn. Once they grow, they can hold their breath underwater for 8 minutes. At the same time, they use their whiskers like underwater radar to detect fish in pitch black water or thick mud where their eyes cannot see. When threatened, their screams can be heard over a mile away to warn every otter nearby that danger is close. Along the streams where these playful hunters live, the water spills over cliffs at Proxy Falls. From there it drops from a high basalt cliff made of porous lava rock, and the water sinks underground instead of pooling below. Around the falls, mossy rocks, fallen logs, and natural stone walls create a quiet spot that feels almost like a secret hideaway. Where the water goes next is a mystery. It might travel for miles through hidden lava tubes before bubbling back up somewhere else. Eventually, following Proxy Creek upstream leads to the Mackenzie River, where the vanished water likely reappears after its underground journey. Its water runs crystal clear, filtered through lava chambers that act as natural purifiers and coolers. Fed by snowmelt stored underground, the river flows steadily all year, even during dry seasons. Further along, it crashes over volcanic rock at Coosa Falls, where the force of water meeting stone creates a steady roar of thunder. It plunges about 70 feet over hard basalt rock, frozen like cracked glass from thick lava flows. Below the cascade lies a pool that glows turquoise, coloured by fine glacial powder mixed with icy clear water. Its name, Coosa, meaning sky in Chinook jargon, connects it with nearby Sahali Falls, or heaven, reflecting the area's profound cultural roots. This area provides a home for many birds, including the bright and lively yellow warbler. Males shine like buttery yellow flames with reddish streaks on their chest, while females and young birds are softer yellow with plain faces and big dark eyes. They hunt by hopping through branches to grab caterpillars, beetles, mosquitoes, and spiders from leaves, sometimes catching insects in mid-air. The male's song is a sweet, whistled tune that echoes through willows and wet thickets all summer. When cowbirds lay eggs in their nest, they build a new nest floor on top of the intruder's egg, sometimes stacking up to 6 layers. These tiny birds migrate thousands of miles for winter and return north in spring, with males arriving first to claim the best territories. Half of all yellow warblers die each year from predators and the dangers of migration, so survival remains a constant challenge. Cornucopia got its name from Horn of Plenty because miners believed the mountains held endless gold, and they were right, as it is the 6th largest mining operation in the nation. It was located so high in the mountains that winter snow buried it under massive drifts and forced workers to build aerial trams to move people and supplies. Life in here was wild, with shootings, gambling, and saloons filling the streets, which turned the town into one of the roughest mining camps around. Miners pulled out millions of dollars worth of gold, but geologists say over 80% still remains locked in the mountain. When World War II started, the government shut down all gold mines so workers could dig for metals needed for weapons, and Cornucopia emptied within months. Bandon got its name from an Irish town, and when a settler brought a spiky yellow-flowered shrub called gorse to plant as hedges, not knowing it would turn into the town's worst problem. Because the flower is full of oil, fires can soar high, and water barely stops them, and the town burned twice, with the second fire destroying nearly everything. After it was rebuilt and gorse became illegal, it transformed into a diverse and welcoming community where people from many cultures now live. Beyond the town, Bandon Beach offers wide sandy stretches and dramatic cliffs for visitors to enjoy. It is famous for its strange rock formations called sea stacks, shaped over thousands of years by the ocean. Some of them look like elephants, tables, or even a face staring at the sky. In fact, according to a local legend, one sea stack called Face Rock is said to be a young woman turned to stone by a sea monster. Tide pools hide tiny sea creatures like starfish, crabs and anemones. And a short walk along the coast leads to Coquille River Lighthouse that has stood through storms and fog for over a century. Built to guide ships safely through the river's constantly shifting sandbars, it was painted red and white so sailors could spot it, even in thick fog. A loud foghorn once warned ships, later replaced by a sharp, eerie fog siren that locals both feared and disliked. After being shut down, the lighthouse sat empty for years until restoration turned it into a place visitors can explore and hear old sea stories. Decades later, workers discovered old photos showing it was once tan with a red base, so they repainted it, but the town was upset because they remembered it as white. Jawbone Flats began as a mining camp after gold, silver and copper were discovered nearby, and its name comes from the miners' wives who spent their days gossiping, or jawboning. The camp used a small hydroelectric plant and solar panels, and ran without outside power long before it was common. When it became unprofitable, people abandoned it where rusting mining tools and equipment remained scattered around, which revealed the hardships of life for the miners. The area is surrounded by thick forest, which largely survived earlier fires but was devastated by a wildfire that destroyed most of the buildings. Today, the site serves as an outdoor museum with trails once used by miners and native people for trading and hunting long before the camp existed. Visitors sense a mysterious atmosphere, as locals say the place still holds voices and footsteps from the past. Purple vetch hills are covered in thick mats of purple vetch, a climbing plant that spreads quickly like a soft, colourful carpet. The hills are rocky and dry, so the plants help hold the soil in place during wind and rain. Vetch plants can take nitrogen from the air with the help of bacteria on their roots, adding natural fertiliser to the soil. These flowers attract hundreds of bumblebees, which crawl into the blooms for nectar and get covered in yellow pollen as it spreads. The insects have thick fur that acts like a winter coat, letting them fly and gather nectar even in cool, windy weather. They use buzz pollination by vibrating flowers until pollen drops out, which helps them get more food and spreads pollen to nearby plants. Colonies live in small nests underground, often in old animal holes, with only the queen surviving winter by hiding safely until spring. When spring arrives, the queen builds the colony, lays eggs and feeds the first batch until they can gather food themselves. Workers stay close to their nests, focusing on nearby blooms and collecting nectar before bad weather forces them inside. Predators like birds, spiders and humans threaten them, making the hill's flowers vital as safe food sources. Unlike honeybees, these colonies store only a few days' worth of nectar and pollen, so a week of bad weather or lost blooms can endanger the entire nest. Witch's Castle ruins are the remains of a stone building that once served as a park caretaker's house and bathrooms, but was abandoned after storm damage. The crumbling walls look like a castle, which gave the site its spooky nickname, even though it has no connection to witches. High school students discovered the ruins and began holding Friday night parties there, a tradition that continues today. Despite its ruined state, the site is popular with hikers and explorers drawn to the mix of history, mystery, and the quiet forest around it. Local legends say cameras die mysteriously near the ruins, and some visitors report feeling invisible hands pushing or grabbing them while walking among the stones. Eel Lake got its name from creepy fish called lampreys that look like eels and latch onto other fish with sucker mouths full of teeth to drink their blood. It formed when the ocean rose after the Ice Age, flooding river valleys and trapping water behind sand dunes. Because it sits right behind sand dunes, big winter storms can sometimes make waves appear, even though land separates it from the ocean. In summer, its water warms enough for swimming, and visitors can enjoy kayaking, paddleboarding, and boating. Meanwhile, along the shoreline, Oregon's official state animal, the beaver, chops down willow and alder trees to build its lodges. As the largest rodents in North America, they can weigh as much as a medium-sized dog and grow up to 4 feet long. Their bright orange front teeth never stop growing, and thanks to iron in the enamel, they stay strong enough to gnaw through tree trunks. Beavers mate for life, and whole families, parents and young from different years, work together to build and maintain lodges and dams. With webbed back feet and flat, scaly tails, they move like skilled swimmers, and their tails and feet act as paddles and rudders to guide them through rivers and ponds. Their lodges have underwater entrances, and impossible for predators to reach the warm, dry chambers where the young kits are raised. Tillamook Rock. Lighthouse nicknamed Terrible Tilly sits alone on a jagged rock more than a mile out at sea, where waves slam over the tower like the ocean itself is attacking. No keeper ever lasted long there, as they face isolation, madness, and danger so extreme that the lighthouse earned its terrifying reputation. Before it even lit for the first time, a ship ran into a rock in thick fog, and the ship's dog was the sole survivor among the crew. After it was deactivated, the lighthouse was turned into a columbarium, but is now privately owned and remains for sale. Devil's Punch Bowl formed when 2 sea caves broke through the wall between them, and the roof collapsed, leaving a giant bowl carved into the coastline. Its red and yellow sandstone walls stand out against the darker rocks on the floor, which fell from the ceiling during erosion. At low tide, visitors can walk inside the bowl and explore tide pools full of sea creatures clinging to the rocks. During high tide, waves crash through 2 tunnel openings, and the water churns and boils like a giant cauldron. When the wind and waves hit just right, the tunnels create eerie sounds that change pitch like someone singing, which may be why local tribes said the place was haunted. From its roaring waves, one of the most noticeable residents are the birds that dominate the rocky cliffs and nearby sea stacks. During mating season, pairs build simple nests from grass and seaweed on steep, hard-to-reach cliff ledges. Mating for life, they return each year to the same spot and reunite with the same partner. Known for their loud calls and aggressive behaviour, they fiercely protect their eggs. When hunting, they swoop down to grab fish, scavenge dead sea creatures, and steal from other seabirds. As clever problem solvers, gulls drop shellfish from high above onto rocks, or even pavement, to crack them open efficiently. Their powerful stomach acid allows them to digest bones and eat entire crabs, shells and all, without harm. Deschutes National Forest extends along the east side of a major mountain range and features a variety of forests, meadows, lakes and volcanic areas. Its volcanic past shaped the terrain, leaving lava flows, obsidian fields, and large caldera formations, including areas where visitors can explore underground lava tubes. Outdoor adventures abound, from hiking among lodgepole pines to paddling on alpine lakes or skiing on Mount Bachelor. In addition, several areas provide quiet trails and sweeping vistas, where changing weather reminds visitors of the forest's untamed nature. The peaks rising from this area are the tallest points along the Cascade Mountains, a long chain of active cones stretching through the Pacific Northwest. These mountains formed where one tectonic plate slides under another and forced hot magma to the surface, and sometimes causing eruptions that reshaped the land. Mount Hood, a massive cone in the range, often emits steam or minor eruptions, a reminder that the ground is still active today. The rich soil supports unique forests that hold water like sponges that feed rivers and sustain wildlife year-round. Almost every peak is a volcano, built on an ocean plate that slowly slides under the continent and that creates cracks and volcanic activity in the ground. In addition, the remote terrain inspires mystery, with reports of enormous footprints and strange sounds that suggest unknown creatures may roam the mountains. Nearby Sparks Lake appears, a shallow, wide body of water created when lava flows blocked river paths long ago. It took its name from a pioneer cattleman, Lige Sparks, who pastured his livestock in the area in the 1900s. Its waters seep through cracks in the volcanic rock, exposing parts of the lake bed in summer, while underground channels carry water quietly beyond the visible shoreline. Locals tell stories of mysterious noises and whispers carried by the wind, thought to be voices from the past. Despite its quiet surface, the lake holds a secret energy that draws visitors to explore and wonder about what lies beneath. Just a short trip away, Waterfalls showcases nature's beauty with its powerful waterfalls and peaceful trails. Its name comes from a native word meaning icy water, a fitting description for a creek fed by melting glaciers in the Cascade peaks. The snowmelt keeps the water frigid, numbing hands in seconds even on warm summer days. In winter, parts of Waterfalls freeze, forming a giant icy wall that resembles a natural sculpture. If you hike past the main falls, there are at least 6 more waterfalls upstream, hidden in the canyon. Cape Blanco is a flat piece of land that sticks out into the ocean and stands about 200 feet above the water, with tall rocky cliffs shaped by waves and wind. The ground is made of layers of weathered ocean mud and sand that have been pushed upward over time, and the land continues to rise slowly each year. Around the Cape, you can find interesting rock formations and reefs that rise from under the sea, like underwater mountains. A narrow strip of loose soil connects the Cape to the mainland, but it could one day wash away, turning Cape Blanco into an island. Wildlife here includes seabirds nesting on cliffs and creatures living in tidal pools among the rocks. Just above these dramatic cliffs stands the Cape Blanco Lighthouse, a beacon that has guided ships through fog and storms for generations. Visible from 22 miles away, it ranks among the strongest lights along the coast, powered by one of the oldest electric motors that flashes a bright white light every 20 seconds. Its glass lens, shipped from France in pieces, was carefully assembled on site. Visitors can climb the spiral staircase to see the restored lens up close, a fixture that has shone reliably for over a century, despite harsh conditions. Buncombe is one of the best-kept ghost towns in southern Oregon, located where 2 rivers meet, and originally founded as a gold mining camp. Miners began to dig for gold here, later discovering silver and other metals, and it eventually grew to include a saloon, a store, and a post office. The name Buncombe likely comes from old slang meaning worthless or nonsense, which became fitting once the gold ran out. Most of the original buildings burned down over time, but a few, including the post office and cookhouse, remain thanks to local preservation efforts. A historical society rebuilt or relocated many structures to preserve the town's history, even if it meant rearranging some parts. Now, it attracts people curious about history and the harsh lives miners once led. In summer, swarms of horseflies attack anyone who visits, providing a surprisingly authentic taste of life in the old mining camp. Lincoln County is a coastal area known for its long beaches and lively fishing towns where boats bring in fresh seafood every day. It is also known for colourful rocks, like jasper and agates, that wash up on beaches or peek out beneath the sand after storms. Lincoln City isn't actually a real historic town. It's 7 different small towns that voted to smoosh together into one city, and they almost called it Miracle Beach or Surfland instead. Not far from here, the coast curves into Silet's Bay, where sea creatures and mysterious waters invite further exploration. It is a tidal estuary where fresh river water meets salt ocean waves, a place that constantly changes and serves as a lively home for crabs and many birds. When the tide goes out, it becomes half its size, and the ocean pulls back to reveal mudflats where people can walk on and dig clams from the mud. The mix of forest, shore and water makes Silet's Bay a puzzle box of sounds, from bird calls to crashing waves, that carry through the land. Just down the coast sits Yaquina Head, where another lighthouse warns ships away from rocks that have ripped apart vessels for centuries. Towering above the shore, it is the tallest in Oregon, and climbing the spiral stairs to the top feels like walking up a 10-story building while carrying the heavy supplies keepers once hauled. The glass lens that lights the tower was crafted in France over a century ago and remains the original piece, still functioning perfectly today. Its unique flashing pattern allows sailors to identify the lighthouse even on the darkest nights, and its giant lens is visible 19 miles out to sea. Strange stories persist, like a worker who supposedly fell between the 2 brick walls during construction, though no body was ever found. The Oregon Dunes cover roughly 40 miles and is considered one of the biggest sand dune areas in the region. In fact, the sand originally came from mountain rocks that broke down, carried by rivers and spread by ocean currents and wind. Behind it, lakes sometimes appear and disappear when sand blocks streams and rainwater collects in hidden spots. Decades ago, government workers planted European beach grass to stop the IT from moving, but it worked so well that it harmed the natural ecosystem, which depends on shifting sand. Quicksand forms in spots where underground water saturates the sand and create a thick liquid that can trap legs and become dangerous if the tide rises. The ever-moving dunes provide the perfect playground for off-road vehicles and hikers, while nearby, sanderlings run along the shore in search of food. These small, plump shorebirds, with pale grey or white feathers, black legs and straight black bill, eat tiny creatures like sand crabs, worms and bugs. They can drink seawater because special glands near their eyes filter out salt and expel it through their nostrils. Sanderlings can rest with half their brain at a time and remain alert for danger at migration stops. During courtship, the male flies up rapidly while beating his wings, then descends while singing, and follows the female closely with his head down, tail feathers fanned, and wings drooping. Females sometimes lay 2 separate batches of eggs with 2 different males and leave each father to care for 1 set of chicks. Alongside sanderlings, smaller shorebirds called dunlins also scurry across the area. These birds are called sewing machine birds because they stab their curved bills into wet sand so fast it looks like a sewing machine needle that pokes the ground faster than you can count. Remarkably, their bills have taste buds along the whole length, which lets them detect marine worms without seeing them. Dunlins are skilled hunters, digging into the sand like tiny shovels to find hidden insects and worms. During winter, their feathers are plain grey and white to camouflage, but when spring arrives, their backs turn rusty red with black bellies for mating season. When migrating, dunlins move in large groups, flying long distances between northern breeding areas and milder winter homes, and stop at mudflats to rest and feed. They make simple nests in shallow scrapes, and the chicks can run and find food soon after hatching, with some help from their parents. Unlike birds in trees or open fields, dunlins live in shifting sand and mud, and rely on their speed and clever bills to survive. Lafayette Cemetery began as a burial place for early settlers, but is now mostly forgotten, with many graves unmarked or moved. It's said to hold the grave of a woman accused of being a witch, who was hanged there and reportedly cursed the town to burn multiple times. 2 major fires have happened so far. Visitors report sudden weather changes, from summer heat to icy winds, and sometimes hear female laughter, whispers to run home, or feel unseen hands touch or scratch them. Because of these spooky encounters, the cemetery is off limits after dark. The Pillars of Rome are giant clay formations that look like old Roman ruins, but they're actually made from volcanic ash and soft lake sediments. In addition, rocks change colour as the sun moves, shifting from pale tan to white, and giving the place a constantly changing appearance, like a natural light show. Because of these formations, the site became a famous landmark for travellers long ago, who named it after the Roman ruins. There are no formal trails found here, so exploring feels like walking through a quiet desert museum full of fossils and stories frozen in time. Hell's Canyon is the deepest river gorge in North America, carved by the Snake River, cutting through layers of basalt and granite. Lava flows created hard rock caps that protected the cliffs from eroding too quickly, allowing them to remain sharp and steep. Wind through the canyon can sound like whispers or distant howls, which creates a sense of unseen energy in the area. The canyon is mostly wild and empty, with no roads inside, so visiting feels like stepping into a massive, untamed arena shaped by raw natural forces. Its bottom is a scorching desert, while the rim is a freezing forest, so hiking from river lets visitors experience two very different climates in a few hours. Most of the canyon is inaccessible by road, so people either raft down the Wild Snake River through rapids or take noisy jet boats through areas meant to remain quiet. Alva Desert is a huge flat dry lake bed that looks like a cracked and crumpled paper spread out on the ground. It formed after a giant lake dried up, and this left behind thick layers of salt and minerals that shine bright in the sun. Strong winds race across the flat surface because there are no hills or trees to slow them down, which turns it into one of the windiest spots around. Hot springs bubble up through the cracks at temperatures over twice as hot as a hot tub, heated by structures that reach far into the earth. Wild horses sometimes come to drink from here and bring life to the desert's stillness. This strange mix of cracked ground, sudden pools of warm water, and wild animals sets the area for the desert tortoise, a tough creature adapted to this tough place. This unusual mix of cracked ground, sudden pools of warm water, and wild animals defines the life of the desert tortoise, a resilient creature adapted to this harsh environment. They dig underground homes, which provide shelter for themselves and other animals when the sun becomes too hot or the cold too sharp. Able to survive over a year without drinking, the tortoise absorbs moisture from plants and stores it in its body like a built-in water bottle. A slow walk helps them conserve water, which prevents too much moisture from escaping, almost like moving carefully on a hot day to avoid sweating. When threatened, they release their stored water in seconds to deter predators, though this can be risky if they cannot find more water. Eggs are laid in underground nests, where the babies grow quietly, protected from danger until strong enough to face the world. Willamette Falls is the country's second largest waterfall by volume, with the river dropping in a wide horseshoe shape that blocks boats and forced early travellers to carry goods around it. This pushes more water over its edge than any other in the northwest, and only Niagara Falls beats it for total volume across the entire country. Buildings blocked every view of the waterfall for over a century and a half, keeping one of the biggest waterfalls in the nation behind factory walls. American kestrels now hunt along the rocky ledges above the falls and catch insects and small rodents that live in the industrial ruins and nearby cliffs. They perch quietly and watch carefully before swooping down at top speed to catch their prey. Despite their small size, they aggressively chase away much larger birds to protect their hunting grounds. To stay safe near humans, these falcons don't build nests, but use holes in trees, cliffs, or old nests of other birds. Equipped with fake eyes on the back of their heads, kestrels trick predators into attacking from behind rather than their face and neck. Remarkably, their vision includes ultraviolet light, which reveals glowing trails of mouse urine that lead directly to underground burrows. The Rogue River cuts through layers of hard, mineral-rich rock, which formed cliffs that resist erosion. As it winds through the canyon, its path makes a sharp 180-degree turn around a giant quartz rock, creating one of the few rivers that almost double back on themselves. Along the way, it flows over several types of rock, including underwater avalanche debris that changed its course long ago. Close by is Mill Creek Falls, a dramatic drop that's a natural next stop for explorers following the river's powerful journey. The waterfall plunges about 173 feet high and pushes water forcefully into the Rogue River Gorge, with a roar that can be heard from far away. Local lore speaks of lost gold buried near the creek by miners fleeing bandits, and despite many searches, the treasure has never been found. The falls mark the gateway to Lost Creek Lake, where the river's energy settles before continuing its wild course. It was created by a huge dam that controls flooding and provides electricity for homes. The dam mixes warm surface water with cold water from below to keep the river downstream safe for salmon. Despite the calm surface, Beneath the lake, hidden channels run through old riverbeds and volcanic rock, while animals like American mink continue to live along its shores. They make their homes with secret tunnels and burrows close to water, specially designed hideouts for hunting and safety. Their dens often have many secret entrances, so it's nearly impossible for predators to catch them off guard. Minks can dive underwater and swim for long distances by using their tail as a propeller to chase fish and other prey. When threatened, they release a strong, stinky smell to drive off danger, a natural defense that's tough to ignore. Despite their quiet life, they sometimes create trouble by raiding chicken coops. Silver Falls State Park is Oregon's largest park and is famous for the Trail of 10 Falls, where visitors can walk behind 4 waterfalls, including the 177-foot South Falls. It tumbles over hard basalt rock on softer layers, which water has slowly worn away over time, and later on created a cave. Over the years, the area was shaped by early logging and fires, but the Civilian Conservation Corps later built many of the trails and stone features that remain open for visitors. In addition, fishing is also available in Silver Creek for licensed anglers who stay on the trails. The park's waterfalls, rocks and quiet woods are home to creatures like the secretive northern saw-whet owl. These tiny nocturnal hunters use asymmetrical ears and big yellow eyes to pinpoint prey in total darkness, and drop silently onto mice, voles, insects and small birds. Their eyes cannot move left or right, so they spin their heads up to 260 degrees, which gives them a near 360-degree view while staying still. Females lay eggs in old woodpecker holes and may leave the male to raise the chicks while she finds another mate, producing 2 broods each season. During breeding season, the male's rhythmic tooting song can last for hours and fills the forest at night. Unlike many owls, they don't migrate far. Some stay in the park through winter, while others move short distances to find better food or shelter. When threatened, they freeze to hide in a tree and may snap their beak or run to escape predators. Their silent flight and intense focus allow them to survive around Silver Falls, while quietly grazing black-tailed deer roam nearby. They are experts at using thick forest cover for protection and travel mostly at dawn and dusk to avoid predators. Their large, flexible ears can pick up even the faintest sounds, and their dark coats help them hide in the shadowy trees. During mating season, bucks fight with their antlers for mates, while mothers keep their spotted fawns hidden in thick brush as they forage. Black-tailed deers eat a variety of plants, berries and ferns, changing their diet with the seasons to survive winters and summers. This is Oregon, a land of hidden wonders and remarkable architectural marvels. Now, if you don't want to miss the most unreal wonders of Montana, check out this video.